the way the society defines the identity of a man is unfortunately quite ambiguous. If our male companions are walking around with the fear of not being good enough or fearing that they can't be good enough, already you then understand the fragility emotionally there within the male. You can fail at being a parent maybe for your own children as a mother, but if you're a kind auntie, that's accepted. So you then understand within the roles of women, there's a lot of freedom. Men, kind of, for lack of a better word, their brain works in silos. Nafunga ukifunga. Women, their brain works in strings. Everything is connected. But one key factor that is present in women that might not be present in men is a very high level of anxiety, even when there is no reason for anxiety. The way God created is for complementary, to complement each other, not to supplement each other. It's called Hii baridi nataka watu wawili. Wewe na Yesu. What were you thinking? Anyway, so thank you once again. My name is Nyambura Gadumbe. I am a licensed marriage and family therapy, and I truly, truly love being a therapist. I feel like that's what God has called me to do on this very broken world. And welcome. So last week we were talking about CPTSD, and we'll keep talking about CPTSD. Today, I want to talk about how CPTSD shows up in different genders. And please allow me to just discuss on how CPTSD shows up in male and female genders. It's because there isn't a lot of research that's been done on all other genders. So please forgive me for that. And yeah, let's get on to it. We will start with, again, just a brief understanding of what CPTSD is in case you didn't catch the previous session. Previous episode, session. Yeah, nimefanya therapy mpaka kila kitu inakuanga session, so previous episode. Okay, I'm Kikuyu, so previous episode. So CPTSD is defined as complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and this is a psychological ailment that comes from constant exposure to toxic and chronic stress. Okay? And now let's understand how CPTSD shows up. We'll start with men, and then we'll go to women. And then if time allows, we'll look at how CPTSD shows up in intimate relationships. So I might say a wise rabbi. I saw a video of a rabbi saying, men, and maybe I will be stoned for this, it's not okay. Ake msinitupie ukinitupia nitu Yesu atani protect. I saw a rabbi once say that men feel the fear of being nothing, not my words, his words, or feel nothing because they were created from nothing. So he was saying that men walk around with a fear of not being enough. Now, if that is true, and I have read some articles, I would be careful to say that is true or not because that's subjective. It's not objective. I just want to premise on the rabbi's words. If that it is really true, if our brothers, our sons, your husbands, I don't have one, may God divorced. But anyway, that's a story for another day. If our male companions are walking around with the fear of not being good enough or fearing that they can't be good enough, already you then understand the fragility emotionally there within the male. Now, I'm not saying that men are not good enough. Please understand my words. I'm just saying, based on this rabbi, he was saying that most men walk with the fear of feeling like they're not enough. There's a fear that I will not be enough. I won't do this to the best of my capacity. And maybe that's a universal fear. I don't know. But I'm leveraging on this rabbi's words. Now, looking at identity, which is affected by CPTSD or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And what is identity? Identity is the sum total of a person's values, person's experiences, person's perception, and a person's worldview. All these accumulate to form somebody's identity. I would say, that the way the society defines the identity of a man is unfortunately quite ambiguous, because the identity of a man is formulated from anatomy, his penis. And that's like the most ambiguous thing. Now, the society deals with men on two identities. You're once a boy, then you're a man. And that's why one of the worst things you can ever tell somebody, a man who you care for, is you're behaving like a small, sorry, I can't even say it. So then you understand, because there's an ambiguity of an identity around the male figure, there's already a heavy emotional fragility there. And maybe I want to talk a little bit about it and the different ways the society relates with us, women versus men. And it's not a competition, it's complementary. And again, this is more information. So men are defined as once a boy and then you're a man. They're defined by by their identity as a man, which is anatomical, right? And you'll find, and that's why you hear people say, be a man, be a man. That's like the most ambiguous thing you can ever tell somebody. If you compare it to women, we are defined by our roles. And roles are easy to define, right? And the three roles that the society identifies women as is, you're once a maiden when you're young and beautiful. I was going to say like myself, I'm not young, but I am beautiful. Catch that. Anyway, but when you're young, you're a maiden, and then you get married. What's the next question people ask you after you get married? When are the kids coming? You become a mother. And then once you raise your children, once you become a mother and your children give birth, you become a matriarch. Now, the distinguishing factor about the identity of a man anatomically versus the identity of a woman, roles, maiden, mother, matriarch, is that for us women, if you miss out on being a maiden, you can be a mother. If you miss out on being a mother, you can be a matriarch. What do I mean by this? Let's say maybe in your early years, people didn't perceive you as cute or beautiful. And then you get into your profession, you're able to go for your cosmetic surgery, no shame into that. You're able to go to the gym and all that stuff. You're beautiful. Then you're like, oh, wow, she's cute, but she's young. Or she's beautiful, but she's much older. So there's no missing out on maiden. If you're not a mother, you can still play the role of a mother around you, your friends' children, your own parents, your own children. So there's no missing out on being a mother. And a matriarch, and this is so important because older ladies are revered more in our society. So if you look at it from a female point of view, we don't really miss out on our identity in terms of roles. But the ambiguity here of men is be a husband like a man, be a worker like a man, be a brother like a man, show up like, it's so ambiguous. Why is that important? To understand, especially in the lenses of CPTSD. If there hasn't been a deconstruction of the identity of what being a man means, and this is what I work with a lot with corporates and also with my male clients, we deconstruct what this identity of what being a man means, and then we reconstruct their own perception of the identity of what being a man is. And then they evaluate their identity based on their new understanding of what being a man looks like. CPTSD can really injure the identity of a man. It's very easy for the person to feel like they're floating. Yuko but hayuko. It's like a miss, but pia it's not a miss. And one of the observable things that might be present as observed in the eyes of CPTSD within the identity of a man is avoidance. Now, avoidance, how I understand avoidance, is a behavior adaptation to help this man function in a survival state. And again, there's nothing wrong with that because at every given time, we show up based on the level of consciousness we are aware of. So CPTSD can greatly injure the identity of a man because already the ambiguity of the identity of a man is there. How does this look like? Just isolation, a lot of avoidance in terms of intimate relationships, not wanting to feel, being very logical, and there's nothing wrong with that, because maybe one day we'll look at how the brain of a man works versus how the brain of a woman works. In short, men kind of, for lack of a better word, their brain works in silos. Unafunga ukifunga. Women, their brain works in strings. Everything is connected. And that's why if you're in a relationship and a girlfriend is telling the boyfriend a story, the boyfriend is like, tulitaka kwa hiyo gari tukafika aje Nakuru. Because the brains are different, and it's important that we understand that. The way God created is for complementary, to complement each other, not to supplement each other. Another topic for another day. But then you then understand if CPTSD already injures the fragility or the identity of a man, that person is not able to show up fully in how you expect them to. And even they themselves don't know this is what is happening. Now let's look at how CPTSD shows up in women, because it's different. So because our roles are very clearly defined and there's acceptance of ambiguity around the roles, this is what I mean. For women, even though you're in your 40s, like I'm turning 42 this year, June 4th, so I accept M-Pesa, roses, cakes. Anyway, I'm not kidding, by the way. Number opportunity. But on a lighter note, our roles accommodate ambiguity. You can look 50 and you look 30 or 40, and that's fine. You can look, you can fail at being a parent maybe for your own children as a mother, but if you're a kind auntie, that's accepted. So you then understand within the roles of women, there's a lot of freedom. But then CPTSD does not stay away from that identity, because those roles are well defined. How CPTSD looks like for women, one, is an incessant need to be seen. And then when you're seen, you don't want to be seen. This is how it looks like. Maybe you showed up at work, you look really nice, and people are like, oh, you look so nice, you put in so much. You're like, you now start to dim it down. These ones were on offer, or, my friend paid for me, or it's not that big of a deal. So you've put in effort to be recognized and seen. And then when that effort is met, you kind of want to cower in. So that's one aspect that it shows up. The other aspect that it shows up is in chronic isolation, where, yes, you have friends, but you don't want to interact with friends. And even for women, there's a high level of avoidance, by the way. But one key factor that is present in women that might not be present in men is a very high level of anxiety, even when there's no reason for anxiety. Because remember, in episode 1, or rather in the previous episode, we talked about how chronic stress, and that's overridden by fear, is constantly present in somebody who has CPTSD when your body has CPTSD. So there's a lot of fear. So there's a chronic anxiety. And how chronic anxiety looks like in women is high irritability. And I'm not here to judge anybody. People say the wrong things all the time. People are fighting with you. You're not fully understood. Your friends, you feel like your friends have ni kama wamekutoroka. And so to avoid feeling this fear and this anxiety, what you do is to isolate yourself. So I hope we've been able to understand how CPTSD shows up in men and women. Now I want us to look at the behavior. So when it's present in men, how does the behavior look like? And when it's present in women, how does the behavior look like? So we're going to look at it in the aspects of work and relationship. So because once again of the ambiguity of the role of the identity of a man, and because of the avoidance, because CPTSD leads you to disconnect with the chronic stress that you've gone through a long duration of time, so there is avoidance. What happens is if a man finds something that he's good at, he'll pour everything into that. And most of the time, that's normally work. And work then creates an image and an identity for him that is acceptable, separate from the turmoil that has caused the avoidance within him. So you'll find somebody who overworks. They either overwork or they over exercise. Like you can literally see this person is truly deeply obsessed with this thing, because this is the place where they feel like they're in control, and this is the place where the CPTSD is not. It's not very prevalent. It's there, but it's not very prevalent. And so they keep building onto that identity because it makes them feel like they're in control. Again, no judgment on that. For women, what happens is a desire to escape through social connections, through relationships. And here is where a lot of women settle for relationships they shouldn't be in. And that's, I'm sorry if that feels like a judgment, I promise it's not. So you will feel like you want to show your value in a relationship. You want to change this man. You want to pour into this man. You want to make sure that he sees you, that you're different. And you toil and toil and toil in an bid to bring out the value of this person. And also at work, some women will struggle, some won't, but CPTSD greatly shows up, especially for women, in their identity in relationships. So I hope that has been helpful. As you can tell from the topic, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, nothing is in a straight line. It's complex, it's multi-layered, and it's going to show up, that multi-layeredness is going to show up in literally most aspects of somebody's life. So I hope you've been able to not to identify, to understand the different identities, to understand how CPTSD shows up, and maybe now you have awareness and you can advocate for yourself if you feel like this has been your life. Thank you for staying with me. Please give me your feedback and be blessed. In Christ is King.